Hey, chick.
Hey.
Welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
So for those of you who are unfamiliar with Tato Torosyan is one of my closest friends. She was a guest on episode 4 of the podcast, and it was titled A Girlfriend's Guide to Divorce, a very honest conversation between two girlfriends talking about literally the hardest time in our lives. And when I started this podcast, I didn't have the intention to make this about divorce. I mean, I knew it would have components of it in the conversations, but not, to this extent. And to my surprise, so many people after our episode reached out. I mean, dozens and dozens of messages, mostly women, some men, just saying how much they connected with our story and the way that we spoke so candidly about things, and just saying thank you because they felt so alone going through their experience, and some of them going through it now feel alone. And it's just nice to have someone who is of similar culture, of similar background, talk about things that our culture, unfortunately, finds it so taboo and just doesn't even talk about it. So thank you and welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I too got a lot of messages, and I still do till this day. Unfortunately, there's so many people who feel so alone, and you're not alone. Nobody's alone.
Yeah. So for anyone who didn't listen to episode 4, can you catch us up to who you are, what you do? Just give us a little bit of the 411.
Of course. I own Skin Deep LA. We're a med spa in Montrose. Our medical director is Dr. Pat. He's incredible. He's behind the scenes of this face.
Mine too. So if you like what you see.
Yeah, seriously. So, I've been in the beauty industry since 2007. So my life path got me into Skin Deep LA. Actually, it was a blessing in disguise. So when I was going through my messy divorce and stuff, I had to unfortunately close the doors on my previous business. And it was heartbreaking. And it was...
What did you do before?
The body sculpting and all that stuff.
Okay.
Even though they still transitioned over into Skin Deep, but it was kind of a weird moment in my life. And I didn't realize what kind of a beautiful blessing it was. At the moment, of course, it felt like a complete and utter loss.
Right.
But fast forward 3 years later, here we are.
How long have you been divorced?
This will be 6 years.
6 years. Okay. So you're kind of a pro at this point.
Somewhat.
I've always said it never gets easy, but it gets easier.
It does. Yeah. You know what it is? You learn to cope with it in a different manner. It's not that you become numb. I think being very honest and raw and talking to people and not hiding from the fact that you're divorced, because there's nothing to be ashamed of. That opens pathways for you, and you start to heal without even realizing that.
Right.
Because of that step you take, you sleep better, you recognize yourself differently at that point. Yeah.
Yeah. No, of course, you have to see yourself differently in order to show up differently and to not put this negative connotation, even though it feels painful and feels negative, the connotation you attach to it and the story you tell yourself has to change.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, you're going to stay stuck in that victim mentality forever.
That's the hardest part. I think a lot of people think of themselves as victims, whether male or female. It doesn't matter. But just know that if you take yourself out of that victim mentality and think of yourself as this empowered person, so much is going to shift in your life. We are not victims. None of us are victims.
No.
We went through stuff. Of course, there was trauma. There was different things. But don't stay in that. The longer you stay in that, the more you bury yourself deeper into it. The fact that you chose to leave already puts you a step ahead, and you're more empowered for it. So choose more empowering steps to grow with that. Use whatever your trauma was to help you grow. I did the same. Honestly, back when I had to give up bliss, when I started all over and I started Skin Deep, I started from negative, not even zero. It was negative. I had nothing. And I'm a very stubborn human. You know this.
A little bit.
And I don't accept help, especially financially. I don't accept help. So I did this all on my own, and I built it. And you have to find that strength in you, and it's there. I swear it's there. You just have to look very deep and find it in you.
Yeah. And you have to find your tribe. I think that's super important. And one of the first things I really want to talk about, because I'll be honest, my first year, I've now been divorced 1.5 years. My first year was hell.
I remember.
And you literally saved my life.
Mm.
I don't say this lightly. I don't think I've said this about anyone, but you saved my life in the first year because it's such a 180 from your previous life when you are now a single parent and you have to figure out how you're going to show up for your kids and just the day to day. You have the weekends and it's a brand new dynamic. I remember I was driving to Gelson's in La Cañada and my kids wanted corn dogs from there. They love corn dogs. So we're eating and we're sitting outside and I had the lowest day, but of course I don't want to show my kids that. I was like bawling on the inside and I'm looking at them, these two beautiful little kids. And I'm like, am I ever going to be enough for them? Am I ever going to, or is this it? Like, is this corn dogs for the rest of our lives? It was just so hard because now you're the sole person, right? Who has to pick up the tab to give the emotional support, the physical support, planning the activities on weekends. And I have two boys, they're aggressive boys who want to play soccer. I don't know how to play soccer, but I'm learning. And it's just like reality hits so hard in the first few months where you yourself are going through so much turmoil. How do you show up positively for your kids who are also dealing with this and like put on a brave face? I honestly don't know what I would have done if in that moment you and I didn't get close, which happened very organically. Even though we had known each other through our friend Nada, we never really connected. And it was the greatest thing because now on weekends, we had this new family to hang out with. And my kids didn't feel alone, that they're the only kids they know who have divorced parents. We would go to dinners and go to the park. We went on a couple, little getaways. And it's like, wow, there's life on the other side. And having a tribe, having a friend who can just sit with you, not solve your problems, but just sit with you.
And snap you out of your
Oh yeah.
spin outs.
Oh my gosh, I had many spin outs, many. Oh my God. And yeah, you can't put a price on that. So thank you for
You're so welcome. It was my pleasure.
being
And
in my corner.
honestly, that's one of the things that I want to like focus on is nobody should feel alone. Like, and don't ever be scared to reach out because I was completely alone. In 2020, it was, honestly, it was more so I was
Because you
embarrassed.
don't even want to talk about it,
I was
right?
more embarrassed than scared, I think. That's the best term to use, embarrassed. And absolutely nothing, looking back, there's nothing to be embarrassed about.
No, you hold your head up high.
Yes.
These are my choices.
Yes.
And it is what it is.
And it was the best choice. It was the best choice for myself and my family. It ultimately was supposed to be that choice. And right now I kick myself that I didn't do it sooner.
Well, you had a unique situation because your ex had substance abuse. Many people, it's not to that extent. But going back to the importance of friendship, one of the messages I received, and you've received this too, is people worried about losing their friend groups after a divorce.
So you have to accept the fact that not every person comes into every chapter of your life with you. Look at our ex-husbands, for example. They didn't make it to the next chapter of our lives, right? And that's just them. Friends don't make it either. There's friends that have been around since we were little and you value them, you love them. But there's also friends you meet along the way and they become the greatest treasure for you. And maybe they will progress into your next chapter with you. Right. There's people you will shed along the way and that's okay.
It does happen though.
Yes, and honest. You just have to love them for who they are and just let it go.
And don't take it personally.
No.
I think for the most part, people don't do it intentionally. I just think they don't know how to navigate that type of situation.
Absolutely.
And so it becomes awkward for them too. I have a cousin who said she didn't call me for 6 months and I wasn't mad at her for it. She just said, "Elle, I didn't know how to approach you." And we have to give people grace that they don't necessarily know the right things to say. And to all the people out there who are the friends and cousins of someone who's going through a divorce, I will tell you that person, yes, does need the support, but also they need the space. And for me, I didn't want anyone knocking on my door, at least not someone who wasn't in the same environment that I was in. I didn't really want to talk to my married friends at that time because I needed to hear from someone on the other side that I'm going to get through this. So don't feel bad if you have someone in your life who is going through such a big life change and you don't know how to approach it. I think give them the time and give them the space. And in my perspective, I think when one, person leaves your life, it makes room for someone else to come in. And maybe years down the line, that friendship can reconnect. But
absolutely.
The dynamic does change. You're not in a couple anymore. So you're not going to get invited to events that are couples. You're not going to go to dinners that are with couples. And you just have to accept that this is your new life. It's your new normal. But you might also make new friends And, these new conversations, these new dynamics might be what you need to carry you and your soul into this next world.
Absolutely. Listen, one of the things that I'm going to just say is if you're going to shut down and not talk to people that are from your old group, that's okay. But don't completely shut down at all, because your own thoughts are just going to turn you into this like turmoil. And so try to find someone to like talk to like you did. And it helps you get certain things off your chest and you just feel better about yourself and the situation. And there's this like positive ray that comes through. And honestly, it just puts a little bit of a pep in your step, right? So it's nice. And not that it's nice to know that someone else went through it. I think that's a terrible way to put it, but it's still nice to know that you're not alone.
There's so many insecurities, when you're going through something like that, and you're also, in the thick of the storm. You are having issues, let's say with your ex-spouse, or you're having issues with your kids or your finances or whatever. You're in the thick of it. Everything is being thrown at you. You feel like your world is crumbling. So it is nice to have someone who, let's say, has been through that experience and is 2 years into the journey, where they can tell you it gets easier. Stay positive, focus on this. Don't think about that. You need to set better boundaries with this person, or, just reframing the way we look at our lives and how we respond to people too is so, so important.
Absolutely. The guilt of it, I think, is what makes people shut down the most. And so don't feel guilty. There's nothing to feel guilty about. If you really take yourself out of that entire picture and you look from the outside in, there's absolutely nothing to feel guilty about.
What did you feel guilty about?
As much as we weren't even a whole family, but I felt guilty taking my kids away from the idea of a whole family. But looking back, it was not an environment that was even close to being a family. I did so much to cover up, so much to make sure that they didn't feel any of it. It was so stressful. So I think I feel mostly guilty because I felt so much relief when I left. So I took them out of that to save them, but I also felt guilty because I was saving myself.
See, just saying that, how wrong does that sound? You felt guilty for saving yourself.
But that's the reality. I think majority of the women who are going through it feel that.
I thought about this last night, actually. We have to stop with the guilt. I think we all, in general, as society, we all do our best, right? And we have to stop with the comparison of you did this in this marriage and I did this in this marriage and you brought this to the table and I brought this to the table. Stop comparing apples to oranges. We all did our best.
Absolutely. You did what you could at that time.
Of course. As women, we give, so much of ourselves to our families and to our children and to our spouses, and men do the same. I think men go through so much when it comes to taking care of a family and the stress that they carry on their backs. So why don't we put all that aside, put the ego aside and put the resentment aside and say, look, we did our best. It didn't work, but we're still two individuals. Can we come to the table and just appreciate the memories that we had, still have love for one another? I mean, I know this is an ideal situation. It is. No, I know that. But if we can at least try to have that mindset, as opposed to saying, I'm going to, throw everything but the kitchen sink at you. It's such a negative space to be in. And I try to tell that to people all the time. I'm like, I know right now you're building a case in your mind of all the reasons why you should have gotten a divorce and why you hate this person and all the reasons. But stop with that list and actually approach the situation from kindness and forgiveness for yourself and for that person, and say, look, as human beings, we did the best we could. Whatever the reason, let's now move forward with just giving each other the grace that we're both flawed. We're both flawed. And life is flawed. And no one was supposed to be perfect, not in this life or in this marriage.
By doing all those things, you create nothing but resentment towards each other, towards just life. And like Kabbalah, it teaches you, right, to forgive people, to say good things about them, to hold them at this light instead of bashing them and saying negative things and all that stuff. So just that one little piece of information should be with everybody at all times. Our days are numbered. You can't just say bad things and wish bad things and go to bed and think everything's going to be okay. Right. Our weekends are numbered, everything is numbered. So why not just go with grace and be a more positive person and wish well, how much more different will your life be?
And also, I think pick your battles and figure out what you're fighting for.
Absolutely.
Because many people go through, years and years in divorce court, let's say. And I've given this advice to a few friends right now who are going through this. And I said to them, look, if it means taking less money, but you're protecting your peace and your time and your energy, consider it. Because what are you fighting for if in the end you're going to give half of it away to divorce attorneys and then you're going to be left with half that money and twice the stress? Your immune system is going to be shot. Your moral, your what's it called? Your energy is going to be sucked dry. What are you fighting for? If your peace is worth more in the end, I think.
Absolutely. What did I tell you in the beginning? I started from negative, not even zero.
So starting from negative, how do you go from negative to taking care of 2 kids?
You just do it. You show up. You show up every single day. You show up. It doesn't matter. You're tired, you show up. You're sick, you show up. You do it. I mean, there's days. My parents help me out a lot when it comes to the kids. They do. I give them all my credit, but I show up for the kids as much as I can. For example, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, Ava and William both have. William has soccer and Ava has dance at the same exact time. So what I do is on Tuesdays I take William to soccer. My dad takes Ava to dance, and then on Thursdays we switch, just so I can show up for both of them. And so I made sure that when William does private practice for soccer, at the same time Ava does tennis at the same place, so I can watch both of them. So I go a little bit here, I come back and I go a little bit over there. You just do it. You show up, because when my kids are older, I don't want them to look back and say mom wasn't there, or we grew up in this broken home, or whatever the concept is. No, I want them to look back and say, you know what? My mom did everything and she showed up to everything. My mom was always there.
No,
and
you are.
At their school performances, when the curtain opens, smack in the front, it's me. I'll take the day off, I'll take the week off, whatever it is, and I will be there. And so it's just a matter of showing up for them. And once you show up for them, you don't need to provide so much. Like that concept of, I lived in a house before and now I live in an apartment, right? I yelled at you for this for how long?
For a good year.
Yes. Honestly, the kids don't care. They don't care. All they care is to see that their mom is happy. Their mom is there. Their mom is healthy. They don't care where they live. I went from a house to a condo. My kids, the first thing they say is, this is our home. This is ours. Like, they love our home. And it's because we made it into a home.
Right.
And that's all that matters.
I think there's something to be said about simplifying your life. And we're not conditioned to believe that, because we are on the trajectory of building a life bigger, better, a bigger house, a bigger house, a bigger house, a bigger life, right? But all those things end up owning you and owning your peace at the end of the day. So when you are going through something like this, there's actually a lot of liberty in downsizing, because now you have less to clean up after, less to worry about, and you can truly start to focus on your healing, which is the number one thing you need to focus on. I say this to people all day, every day. If you're not focused on your healing and making yourself whole, you're going to repeat the same mistakes, and you're not going to be able. Exactly. You're not going to be able to show up for your kids. Why have I not had a boyfriend in a year and a half? Because I'm focusing on me, nothing else.
And you have to do that. There's so many women who, and I apologize,
just want to jump into another relationship.
Don't do that. You don't need someone to provide for you. Provide for yourself. You need someone to grow old with.
And it's the greatest confidence when you realize you can do that.
Absolutely. And I preach this on a daily basis, because I get tons of messages all the time. And some of them will say, maybe this process will get easier if I meet someone. And it's like, no, you're not even close to like healed for you to meet someone. What's going to happen is you're going to go back into the even worse situation than what you were in. So why leave your person now? Stay.
Look, I think dating is important, because you learn so much about yourself. And I mean, we're human at the end of the day. We all want to fall in love and have a happily ever after in due time. But first, if you're not focusing on you and building yourself back up in all the ways that you need to, whether it's your physical appearance so you can feel good about yourself, your internal healing so that you can come to the world from a whole place and now choose better for yourself, but also focus on your nervous system. Our nerves were shot for so many years that I think when you're out of your divorce, if you go like that in this nervous state to any other relationship, that guy or girl is going to be like, what is this? I don't want to get into this storm.
Your energy.
Right. And then you're going to get into another toxic relationship. But the nervous system, and this goes back to what I was saying about simplifying your life. When you simplify your life, downsize your life, you can now focus on those lonely days, which to me were the best therapy because I got to really sit with myself and feel my pain and feel my, every thought, everything that was coming up and really process things. And you can't do that if your plate is, super full with all these new things that you put on your plate. It's like, why don't you clear everything off the plate, really like lick that plate clean and, do some like internal housekeeping and then say, I'm going to add this into my life. And then I'm going to add that into my life.
Absolutely. And it's totally okay to say no.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to say no to friends. It's okay to say no to family. If you're just not feeling it, it's okay.
Yes.
It's okay to say no. Put up those boundaries. There's healthy boundaries because it's going to go so far for you. Don't be a people pleaser. Like that's number one. Because when you're so vulnerable and just new to everything, you just want to please everyone. You want to say yes to everyone because you want to be involved in everything. But no, it's okay. It's okay for you to say no.
Yeah.
And just sit back.
And I think it's a very good time to realize who really is in your corner. Because we all have a lot of friends, and some friends are conditional, some friends are seasonal, some friends are for life.
Mm-hmm.
And your darkest days will reveal who truly is a friend.
You don't need to have a big circle to have friends. You could have one or two people in your circle. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people. A lot of people know me, but my circle is tiny, extremely tiny. There's only a few people that I'll go to that they'll know who I really am, the raw me. Mm-hmm. And that's just how it is. And that's how it's supposed to be. That's healthy.
Yeah.
Because you're very honest with each other. We don't get hurt when we say things to each other. It's just very clear, no filter, no anything, because that's true friendship. If I have to filter what I have to say to you, we have a problem.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So, and that honestly came about after. I didn't know all of these things existed. I was always on eggshells. So this is brand new for me too.
Where
6
do you
years
think
new.
that sense of confidence came from?
I took 2021. I left in 2020. 2020 was hell. In 2021, I took the year to kind of find myself, to heal, to figure all this stuff out. But going back to the end of 2020, I dated this guy for a few months, and he was like a godsend. Granted, it didn't work out. For whatever reason, it didn't work out. But he made me realize what I bring to the table and who I am. He opened my eyes, and I think that's why he was placed in my life at that time.
Of course.
And it was one of the most healthiest relationships ever. And whether it's from friendship to relationship, whatever you want to name it, but I owe him a lot. I do. And so because of that, I started valuing myself with a different eye. So I went into like 2021. I started dating him end of 2020. So like February of 2021, we ended things. And then I went into 2021 of like no dating, don't care, just me. Mm-hmm. And I went into it with this different sense of love for myself. Mm-hmm. And I saw myself differently. I valued myself. I started saying no to things that didn't serve me. I started traveling. I traveled a lot in 2021 and just experiencing life and fun and laughter and all this stuff and just freedom. And it's okay to feel these things and not feel guilty because you left your kids behind for a few days. Like this was one of the biggest things for me.
We leave our kids behind when we're married too.
But then it was okay. You were with your husband.
Right.
You know? But no, for me, it was one of the guiltiest things. I remember my mom sat me down one day and said, please leave the kids with us at least once a week because I don't share custody. I don't have weekends off.
That's really
I
hard.
literally do it all alone. And so my mom was like, please just leave them so they can learn to sleep over sometimes too, because they had never, ever spent the night anywhere. Mm-hmm. And so we started incorporating Friday nights into this thing. And so Friday nights became the night I get off.
Well, everyone sees you on your Friday nights getting dressed to go out. We know.
Yeah, but still, even when I don't go out, I'll stay home and it's just me time. It'll be me to like meditate, zen, journal, read, just catch up on me. Mm-hmm. And that took place in 2021. And it was one of the most liberating times because of the fact that I found myself. I truly found myself. I read a lot, like we've talked about. I meditated a lot. And just the spiritual awakening.
Again.
Yes.
You found yourself
completely different side of me.
First of all, it's such a beautiful thing to witness. And I witnessed it in you and I see it in you, and your aura is just so magnetic for that reason, because when you love yourself that much and you truly give yourself the gift of life, to approach the second chapter with, this openness, you glow in a completely different way. And as women who have had children and gone through what we've gone through, it's like, I don't know the last time I gave myself time while I was married. We're so busy filling everyone
Catering to
else's
everyone.
cup and catering to everyone. And those are good things. I'm not, saying anything. But for the first time in my life, even though I didn't want my divorce to happen, I had the time to also reflect and find myself and become myself. And, all these things that I can't put a price on that. That to me has been the greatest, I want to say, outcome of my divorce is finding myself. I lost so much, but at least I found this human being here who I have to sit with and wake up with every day for the rest of my life. And
For sure.
I now know who she is. I'm so in tune with myself and like connected to myself. And it took that separation from everything else for me to find myself again.
How much of a better mom are you?
Much
More patient?
more present.
Yes.
The second
Absolutely.
thing I found in this whole process is how to be present. While I was married, I couldn't find presence. I don't know why. And I'm not blaming this on anyone, but I wasn't present in my life. I was just constantly checked out. And now
You were just living.
just on
Existing.
autopilot, just existing, right? And now I'm so present with my kids that when they're with me, it's like, I don't want to miss a second because I already miss half their lives when they're not with me. And that is the greatest pain I feel in my life on a daily basis. That's really never going to go away because I think life, no matter what, always is served to us in duality. For every beautiful moment, there's going to be equal sadness. And that's where we come to terms with, this experience is that you make peace with that. I've made peace with the fact that I'm going to miss out on certain moments with my kids. And that to me is the most hurtful thing. Like I cry about that constantly. But when they're with me, we have this whole other dynamic that we've created that fills my soul with so much joy that it gives me at least a little bit of balance and acceptance for the situation.
That's another form of like guilt that women feel. And you shouldn't. Because the kids, all they remember is the fact that you showed up. They're not going to remember that they spent 3 days here and 4 days there or 3.5 days here. They're not going to remember that.
Yeah.
They're going to remember that you showed up for them and that you were there and the love and stuff they got from you. And the fact that they can come to you for anything. Like my kids, the second I pick them up from school, they just tell me everything that happened that day. And it's the best feeling ever knowing that they trust me so much. They know mom is going to be there. They know mom's not going to yell and scream. They know I'm number one on gentle parenting. And you know this, like it'll take a lot for me to yell.
New York.
A lot.
We're going to talk about that.
But I don't get there. So for them to know that mom is a safe space is the biggest reward for me.
Absolutely.
And that's why I still let them come to my bed. And I know a lot of the sleep people, consultants probably hate me for that.
My kids sleep with me too.
But I love that. And it's not going to happen forever. And it's just this little part of me that knows that these two little humans think my bed is the safest place in the world, that when they're feeling a little off or whatever it is, they could come there and they're safe and they fall asleep like this. So for me, it's just this, right now I have goosebumps. It's the most loving and wonderful like place to be.
It's
and
my favorite
I don't
time.
sleep that night. I will give you that. But
I've
just
learned to
looking
sleep.
at them,
I tough it out.
I don't sleep because William thinks he's playing soccer in his sleep. So I don't sleep. So, but it's worth it.
Have you met Nikki?
Same.
No, my kids have slept with me since the day we moved out. We have this thing called doshin, where they put their heads on my dosh. For the non-Armenian listeners, it just means chest. And we have pillow talk time where we talk for like 30 minutes and then we doze off and sleep. And it is the greatest joy of my life. I don't care what anyone says. I want my boys to feel connected to me at night and sleep with me. Granted, they're not going to do it forever. Pretty soon they're going to not even want to spend that much time with me because they're going to be teenage boys. But I love this moment. And we create new habits. And that's what you have to focus on in the second chapter is creating new memories. Going to the places you once went, creating new memories there. Now in the evenings, we listen to piano and we read a book. And now they love that because it's this ritual, right? You can romanticize even the most mundane things. And you'd be surprised how quickly kids get on board. And talking about making new memories, we went to New York in December. We took a family trip. People probably thinking that we were a couple with our kids. Wow. That was, I mean, it was a really, really fun trip. We made
was.
like incredible memories, but also at the same time, you guys, let's preface this by saying it was Christmas, snowing, freezing, the busiest time of the year in the busiest city in the world, one of the busiest cities in the world, 4 kids, tiny cabs, and
Tato doesn't do cold.
she doesn't do cold. She doesn't do hungry. And I remember there's one scene at the table for a dinner, like all the kids are going apeshit. You're like hangry. We couldn't find a restaurant for 4 hours. I knew New York City like the back of my hand, but that one day we just had to get lost. I'm staring, like taking.
Oh no, it was Christmas Day because nothing was open.
Nothing was open.
That's what it
and
was.
like, you know, I think you yelled at Nikki.
I yelled at everyone that day. Are you kidding? And I
No,
don't
you're
even
totally
yell.
allowed to yell at Nikki. That's fine. And I'm like taking selfies, sending flirty messages. And you're like, it was just disaster. Like, you know, some of those moments, but it's going to happen. And it's like part of the humor and just like embracing that life is never going to be perfect. It never was. It never is going to be. But you make new memories. And I got super emotional in New York because it was a place that my ex-husband and I used to go to all the time. It was our place. And I thought, what am I doing here? I'm with our children and we're creating memories and he's not here. But I have learned that if you feel that sadness, just let yourself feel it.
Mm-hmm.
Cry it out
Process
some
it.
more. The next morning you wake up, you're lighter.
And you move on.
You have to
That's what
move
life
on.
is. You have to put one foot in front of the other. That's the only way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
As much as you feel like you're stuck and this overwhelming fear of what's next, you don't know. Nobody knows. Do you know what's happening next when you're married? No. So
No.
what gives you wings then? Because you have someone next to you? No. It's nice, but you have to figure it out for yourself. Always remember that because you never know what the future holds.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get too comfortable where you are.
No.
It's the rudest awakening I could give anyone. Do not get too comfortable. You never know
Right.
what tomorrow brings.
It's very possible that, you know, we're two people who left our marriages. However, it more
be the
often than
opposite,
not
yeah.
goes the other way around where women are left. And yeah, it is really nice to know that you can take care of yourself.
And you can. I get this question a lot, and they're like, "Oh my God, I haven't worked since I got married." So start working now.
Mm-hmm.
What's stopping you? Don't get used to that luxurious life. You can give yourself every single luxurious item. I promise you that. I'm living proof of that.
Mm-hmm.
You can, but don't get stuck in it because he buys you things or whatever it is, and you're comfortable in that. No, that's not enough. Is your soul happy?
Is your soul happy? That's the biggest
90%
question.
of the women I look at, their eyes are so sad and it breaks my heart. It really, truly breaks my heart. And so you really have to sit back and think about when you're 50, 60 and you're retired and your kids are grown up, are you sitting next to someone that you can have long, heartfelt conversations with? Or are you just surrounded by items that he bought you? Think about it. Which is better for you?
Being surrounded isn't being not alone. You can be surrounded and feel extremely alone.
They are alone.
Or you can be alone and feel very whole. There's a difference.
Absolutely.
But it all comes from you. Whether you are married or single, having that wholeness is a personal job.
Absolutely. That goes back to like dating and all that stuff. I remember why I took 2021 off and how I found myself. I made this list of what I wanted for my life. And it was one of the most important things was for someone to fulfill my soul. For me to be able to have conversations with, not be with them and then be on my phone.
Right.
I don't want to be on my phone. Outside of posting something, I don't want to be on my phone. If I'm out with someone special, right? Just the same goes with our kids. When you're out with your kids, you don't want to be on your phone taking business calls or whatever it is, right? You don't want to. You want the focus to be there. I wanted that with someone too. And we should all have that. Every single person, whether you're in a marriage or not, you should have that connection where you have time for yourselves.
I think people don't feel they're worthy or deserving of an alternative that could be better than what they have.
Absolutely. You're right.
A lot of people think, well, this is it. Who's going to want me with 2 kids or 3 kids? Or who's going to want me after I've been married for 20 years and don't have anything to show for myself? It's a very hard place to be.
Absolutely. When I was leaving my marriage, my ex-husband said that to me. He said, do you think anyone's going to look at you? A woman with 2 kids, pushing 40? No one's going to look at you.
How's that worked out for you?
I would beg to differ. But literally, his words to me. And I said, do you really think I want someone That was my response back. Even if I stay alone forever, it's better for me than to be in this situation. My response back. I didn't even know that I was fighting for that at that time. You know, it was such a nasty moment. But sure enough, when I left, that's what I wanted. I wanted to be alone.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want anyone in my life.
And that's what I think is the thing. We're not fighting for anyone's approval, and you're not fighting to prove anyone right or wrong. If you are at that point where you are deciding, how do you know it's over? And I get this question all the time. Listen, you're either choosing yourself or you are choosing the other person. And either one is fine. But which decision are you going to be able to live with? And you know deep in your heart the answer. We all know our intuition speaks to us, especially in women. It's loud and clear. And if you're asking yourself that question, I think you're already halfway there, if not almost there. So it's a matter of pulling the trigger, finding the strength. But when you take the first step, it's that Rumi quote. I think it's Rumi. It says, when you start to walk the way appears. It's taking the first step. It's the bravery in taking the first step and acknowledging it's going to be really fucking hard, but you're going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you fail, you'll do it again. You fail, you do it again.
Mm-hmm.
You have to make almost a game out of it. It's like, this is my new life. And, it's not about who's looking at you, but about who is serving as a mirror for you. Your new friendships, your new relationships, whatever. Even if you go on a date with one guy, let's just say, is this person a mirror to transform me to a better version of myself?
Mm-hmm.
Because everyone shows up as a mirror, right? To show you an insecurity about yourself, something you need to change about yourself, something you need to really think about. But you don't do that in a marriage. You do that now when you're out on your own in the wild and now experiencing the world for the first time. And you have to find joy in that and take it as a learning experience, like a second chance at life.
Mm-hmm. Well, going back to people asking you how you know if it's over or not, if you're asking that question, it's over.
Mm-hmm.
Because it takes us a long time to get to that question even, right? Because we take a lot. We do. Look back on your life. I mean, I took a crap ton until I decided, and then 6 months later, I finally left.
Mm-hmm.
So the second you ask yourself that question, you already know the answer. Look deep inside you, because no one else can help you get there. I can give you advice. I can tell you stuff. It's a matter of what you decide, right? It's your life. So look deep inside. Why are you asking that question? I don't know what happens behind closed doors.
People want, in the early days, especially, they want support for how they're feeling. And they're building a case, right? And so you're making a list of the reasons why you should leave, the reasons why you should stay, which is actually a really pretty good tool to make a list and see which list is longer. But you know what? The list to leave might just be one reason and one reason only. But if that reason is valid for you and speaks to you, to your core, to your soul, in your heart, where you know it's true and you can identify with that one reason is enough.
No, the reason why I say that and nobody else can tell you that is that's just how it is. It's your values. You know who you are.
You know if you're happy.
And you know if what happened hurt you. Do you want to live with that forever? No. Nobody wants to, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're asking that question, you already know. You got to the answer already. You just want the validation for someone to say, yes, leave.
Yeah.
Don't wait for the validation.
It's hard, girl. Those last few moments are really, really hard. And I'm going to share a quote with you. It says, faith is following the whisper, not the crowd. And I think that matches perfectly what we're saying here.
Absolutely.
Faith is following that inner knowing and that whisper inside of you that's nudging you along. And as someone who did go through this for many, 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 many years, it never even crossed my mind that this is what I would do. But there was moments where I swear I would have like glimpses into the future. It's as if my soul knew someday this is going to happen. Even when I was at my happiest, I think I just felt it. And not to get too into spirituality, even though you and I are very spiritual, I think you just know. Mm-hmm. You know that this is not it. There's something here that's not it.
It's not serving your purpose. It's not.
Mm-hmm.
And you just know you don't feel fulfilled. When I look back myself, I mean, I was with my ex-husband since I was 16. I think I was with him longer. Well, now it's like half. But I was with him longer than I was without him when I left. And 20 years of my life was with him. And when I look back, as much as I thought I was happy, I was never happy. Ever.
How can you say that?
I was never happy. Because now I'm truly me. I was never me during that relationship. And that's the worst feeling ever, but also I'm glad I found myself.
Oh, it is the worst feeling thought.
Yeah.
And that breaks my heart because there are a lot of people living that way.
Mm-hmm.
They don't even know who they are, let alone who they are not.
Mm-hmm. And that's how I was. Imagine if I continued that way.
We
just
get
lying to
one
myself.
life. Aren't we supposed to know who we are?
Mm-hmm.
Aren't we supposed to live to find that happiness, that internal true happiness, that
Absolutely.
peace where nothing matters but that peace? Like right now I'm in such a place in my life, genuinely nothing matters but my peace. And I will not compromise a person, a job, anything for that because I found it finally.
You shouldn't have to. Nobody should. It's very grounding when you get there because nothing can tilt you. That's it. You're set. No one can tip you over. Will you have moments of freaking out and crying and all this stuff? Yeah, absolutely. We're human. But it's not going to be how it was before where it was constant.
Right. So you and I said, we're pretty spiritual. And it's not woo-woo spirituality. I think it's like spirituality that really serves the soul. And both of us are very into Kabbalah. Will you share some of the key takeaways, like some of the wisdom that you've learned in the last few months and, what's kind of helped you along?
Sure. I religiously listen to David Guillaume, as you know.
David Guillaume's been on the podcast.
Yes, he's one of my favorite people. I even wear my Kabbalah bracelet.
I lost mine. You bought me one for Christmas and I lost it.
I think Kabbalah has changed my life more so than anything. And I've always been spiritual. I was never religious. And as of December or November of 2024.
I sent it to you. I sent you David's stuff and I'm like, you have to listen to this.
And honestly, it shifted me completely. So I signed up for all 3 of his Kabbalah 3. And right now I'm listening to his new ones that he's released on his website. And honestly, what my takeaway is that just love everyone. Send love to everyone. People who are struggling. Even my ex-husband, like I don't hate him. And he's done so many terrible things, even in the past 6 years, that I should technically hate him for. But I can't bring myself to hate him. I send him love on a regular basis because I do want him to heal and become a better person. And that's one of the key things that Kabbalah taught me is it's not even about forgiveness, I think, more so. It's more about just loving everyone.
Coming from a place of love. And Kabbalah teaches you, like, we're all a vessel, right? And so your main job on this planet is to expand your vessel. So when you get negativity thrown at you, your job is not to fester in the negativity, but rather to transform the negativity and look at what are your triggers. And those triggers reveal your life's work, what you came on this planet to cure and to your tikkun. What you can transform. And so how do you transform it? Well, you give it light. You do the godly thing. And it's very noble and it's not dogmatic. It's not a religious thing. It's spiritual. And its basic premise is to spread lightness, how to be like God, how to be most like God, forgiving, kind, merciful, all those things.
Just do good. Do good on a daily basis and just don't react. That's one of the biggest things.
Oh, yes.
And reactivity. I was a very reactive person. I didn't realize it until I started studying Kabbalah. And now everything is about pausing. I pause all day long. And
positive pleasure.
Yeah. And his new stuff, he says, pause, what a gift. So it's really sweet. Just this morning I was listening to some of his stuff. And his podcasts are great too, actually. It brings you into the light of the week. So I like that because if you listen to it on Sundays, it's what the week is bringing for you. And another great thing about Kabbalah is that you open your heart, because if you open your heart, you allow so much more in. And just being on this positive path, you vibrate higher, right? When you vibrate higher, you meet better people. So going back to when I said not everyone comes into the next chapter of your life, people start shutting off, right? It's the same concept in Kabbalah. And Kabbalah looks at marriage and divorce the way we look at it. Not everyone comes into every chapter of your life with you. And it doesn't mean that they were not your soulmate or whatever it was. But at that given point, they were meant to be in your life for that time. But they don't come into the next chapter. So now it's your time because you elevated. Right. And now you're at a different state. And now you get to meet whoever is meant to be on this level. Doesn't mean whoever's in your life right now is going to follow through.
I think
time will tell.
It places things into perspective where you can look at people as gifts. Even the person who wronged you came into your life as a gift
to teach you
something. to expand your vessel, to give you growth, to give you a lesson, to give you transformation in your life.
Absolutely.
But you won't know it until you stop and pause and really look at, what is this moment teaching me? I was upset about something over the weekend, and I had to really sit with it. And I said, what is this moment revealing about me, about myself? And how am I reacting? Is this really how I want to react? No. So it really makes you look at your life in such a granular way, in a very specific way, and not from a psychology standpoint or talk therapy standpoint, but solely like a spiritual, like soulful way. And, I think our soul travels through many lifetimes, and we come into each lifetime with a certain purpose. And in order for you to fulfill that purpose, you have to meet and lose certain people who are all for the betterment of your soul. I'm sure some people think like, okay, what the hell are you talking about? Like, I have bills to pay. I get it. But you're not going to pay those bills if you're not connected to yourself. It all starts from within.
Yep. The light. One of the biggest things I took away from Kabbalah is that I've incorporated it into my family, my children. My children listen to it with me. They might not grasp everything from it, but one of the best things that's come out of it is their siblings. They bicker, they get into it. So I'll be like downstairs and upstairs. It's like boom, 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 boom. This huge thing is happening upstairs. You're like, what is happening? So all I do is from downstairs, I say, hey guys, reset. And that's it. I don't have to yell. I don't have to find out what happened. The reset means figure out what's going on, talk to each other, and come to an agreement. The thing that we have in our house now is it worth it? That's what I ask them. When they get upset, when they are yelling, when they're just hurt, all this stuff, is it worth it? Are you going to care tomorrow about this item? No. So ask yourself, is it worth for you to hurt your brother or your sister over it? No.
Well, kids of a certain age.
So now they're learning that, and they're incorporating it, and it's all Kabbalah. It's truly Kabbalah. And William says, pause, what a pleasure on a daily basis.
Sidam. That's so cute. Okay. So a lot of the questions we've been receiving also about, how did you tell your kids about the divorce?
So my case, as you know, was a lot more different, and it happened during COVID. So my kids were, honestly, I didn't know this until way after mask mandates were lifted. So my kids were under the impression that we couldn't see their dad because of COVID. And I didn't know this. And they were very little. William was 2, Ava was 4. And so we were in that court battle of like visits and all this stuff, and monitored visits, and just a mess. And it came a time where we pulled up to Trader Joe's, we got out of the car, and they went back into the car to grab their masks. And I was like, oh, we don't need your masks anymore. And then William looks up at me and says, does this mean we can see Papa more? And then I was like, oh my God, my kids think that that's why they don't see him. So I was like, let's finish our grocery shopping and let's go home and we're going to talk. So we have a very honest relationship, very open relationship. There's no lying to each other, but keeping it like more age appropriate to be able to have their brains understand what's going on. So I sat them down and I said, listen, I think you guys thought all this time you guys couldn't see Papa because of the fact that it's COVID and because we weren't seeing so many people at that time. And I said, that's not the reason. The reason why you guys can't see him is because he did something that made him very sick. And until he decides he wants to get better, we can't see him for the safety of everybody. At this point, I should backtrack. The courts had granted me full custody of the kids, and he just wasn't coming around to see them anymore. So they hadn't seen him for a big amount of time. So I think William, I remember he started crying. He's like, oh my God, no, I don't want Papa to be sick. I don't want Papa to see. He thought of it like as a cold or like a fever, body aches, all these things, And I was like, no, Mommy, it's different. It's a different kind of sick. It's not something he caught. It's something he decided as an adult to do. And so until he decides he wants to get better, nobody can help him. And that's the reality, right? So they understood this. And I heard him once explaining it to someone else who had asked if he has a dad. And we were on a vacation, actually. And he turned around and he said, yes, of course I do, very confidently. Of course I have a dad. He's just very sick right now and we can't see him. And when he decides he wants to be better, then we can see him. And he walked away. I was so proud of him. Obviously, my heart was like dying, but I was so proud of him that he stood up for himself. Ava doesn't do that. Ava shuts down.
How do you deal with that?
And it's okay. I talk to her separately. I think Ava shuts down because she thinks that if she talks about it, it's going to hurt me. So what I do about every 6 weeks or so, I bring him up. I talk about him. I'll show them videos of him with the kids when he was an actual dad. And so they know that it's okay for them to have memories with him. And they are allowed to have those memories with him because that's their memories. And I can't take that away from them. I can't strip that away from them. And I want them to know that it's not wrong for them to bring him up. And if they ever do want to see him, that they can come to me and ask. And we can figure out at that point whatever is the right thing to do. But I want them to know that that path is open, that I didn't close it off and it's just like, no.
And how do you deal with that? You said I was breaking on the inside. How do you deal with that type of sadness, knowing your children are so sad?
I had a therapist at the time. I talked to a therapist a lot. And the feelings were normal. You're supposed to feel those things. I felt it all. I cried a lot. But you elevate past it. It's part of growth. And you have to feel it. You have to sit with it. You have to feel it. And I talk to my kids all the time, and just talking to them, as little as they are, they're bright as can be. And they bring a different kind of light into your life. So even talking to them in that children way during that time helped me grow past it. And seeing them understand why this was happening help them grow past it. And I had to sit with Ava once and tell her, like, just because we're just a mom and 2 kids doesn't mean we're not a real family. We're still a family. This is just how our family is. There are families that are a dad and 2 kids, or a dad and 1 kid, and a mom and 1 kid. And those are still normal. That's still a family. Nothing changes there. And I had to explain to her that just because you look at your friends at school and they have both parents at home, you don't know what happens at home. You don't know if they're truly happy. You don't know if the other parent is healthy with their mind and provides a healthy childhood for these kids, right?
Right.
So I had to explain all these to them, and they understand that. And I have a friend who's just a single mom and her son, and they brought that up as an example. See, they are a family, a different type of family, you know?
And it does help when you're going through that to surround yourself with families that look like yours now, so that your kids don't feel alone.
And honestly, your paths cross for a reason. They do. If you look back now, how many people did you meet that way? And it was
don't have
the weirdest
that many
path.
divorced friends, to be honest. I have like 3.
I have like 3,
zero
but
single
that's
friends,
a lot considering that when we were married, we didn't know anyone, right? So I have like 3 too. But your paths crossed for a reason.
That's all you need. You only even need just one. For me, my ex and I took Chris to lunch. And he was 6 at the time. 7 at the time. And, Nikki was too little. He was 4. And so he wouldn't really understand. And we sat down and we said, Chris, mommy and daddy have been fighting a lot. Just like when, you and Nikki fight a lot and mommy puts you on a timeout. So mom and dad are going to take a timeout. And so he turns around and goes, can I take a timeout from Nikki?
I love him.
And of course he was sad. And that was the hardest day of my life. I don't know how I came out of that. It's like the moment you're hurting your child as a parent, the last thing you want to do.
But do you realize that if you stayed and you guys fought all the time, you would be hurting your child even more? So that's one thing that has to help.
But that's, besides the point. But I'm just saying, in that moment, when you're looking at your child and their eyes fill with tears, and you know what's going on in their heart, because keep in mind, I went through that at their age. My parents got a divorce. I know what it feels like. And it's like, of all the things I could have given my child, I had to give them my pain, And it's just one of those things in life where you're just like, I have no solution for this. I have nothing to say in this moment that's going to make me feel better. It's just as bad as it is. It's like accepting a death, because it just is that. It's the death of what was. And you have to grieve it like a death. Super hard at first, then it gets harder, and then it gets even harder. And then there's moments where it gets easy and then it gets hard again. But in time, it does get easier. And my kids now are light years ahead. And it's funny, I talk to my older son, Chris, like he's an adult. And so we have another friend and their family is going through this as well. And I told him that. I was like, nobody knows, Chris, but you're going to know. He's like, oh, mom, we should really be there for them. He gets it. And he's 9 now. He's almost 9. But your kids just become
your best friends.
Your best friends.
Ava's my best friend.
Yeah. Oh, I love them so much. I swear it's like, I think sometimes people from the outside looking in, they think, what a selfish decision you made. Look how you hurt your family. Nobody wants to hurt their families.
Nobody gets married to get divorced.
No, are you kidding? I come from a
then
divorced
no one is
family.
allowed to cast judgment. I'm sorry. You can't. If someone is going to do that, then they probably live in the most miserable life if they're going to think that. If someone is more evolved, we need to get past that. If someone is more evolved, they're going to understand it better. And one of the reasons why there are so many miserable marriages and families is because of that mindset.
Right.
And just because you're married doesn't mean you have to stay in it forever.
Mm-hmm.
You're lagenatic. Aisinkan.
Yeah.
Why?
It's, it comes from so many different places. It comes from our immigrant hustle. It comes from the survival mentality. It's like stay together because it's easier. And I agree in a lot of ways it is. But I do think also we carry the burden, self-imposed burden that does not need to be there. I took on the burden that since my parents are divorced, no matter what, I am never getting a divorce because I want to be a better person. But I was compromising my own happiness because I put this burden on myself for no reason. My parents didn't tell me that. My parents never said, go get engaged at 21 years old. No one said that to me. I did it to myself. And so I had to undo that to myself by giving myself permission. And I read a book, there was one line in there that just perfectly summed it up for me. And it said, you don't owe anyone your life. You don't. We're born alone and you are here to make yourself happy first and foremost so that you can make everyone else in your life happier. My number one priority, your number one priority are our children. But I can't be a good mother to them if I'm not happy as a person.
I guarantee you anything, you're a better mom right now than you were when you guys were a family.
I know I am, 100%.
So that pain that your son felt in that moment is long gone because he's so happy right now. He's so fulfilled right now that he doesn't feel that anymore.
I pray. I don't know. And I'm not going to 100%.
Don't go back to how you were because we didn't have therapy. Our parents didn't handle it the way that we've handled it.
Of course.
We are so much more evolved now. Not that I'm like preaching divorce. Don't get me wrong. If you're in a healthy relationship and it's just little bits and pieces of things that are pissing you off and you guys can work past it, please definitely work past it because the grass is not greener on the other side.
The divorce is the hardest thing you'll ever do. If you can stay married, stay married. 100%.
Yes, if the person in front of you is loving, respectful, a great father or a great mother, and you guys just have some little things that you bicker at and you don't get along, nobody was raised by the two same people. You have to always keep that in mind. You were raised by two different families in a two different households, and you came together and you're building this life together. So come to some sort of middle line together and be more compromising. So there's no way I'm preaching divorce. And I've said this to multiple people. The grass is definitely not greener on the other side. In fact, you have to deal with other people's trauma when you come into that side.
The
Not
grass
just yours.
is green where you water it, regardless of which side of the fence you choose. It's been 8 months since we had this conversation the first time. How have you grown in just the last 8 months? I think putting yourself out there at the time was harder for you. And it's so nice to see you doing more of these things where you're, just talking and it's freeing. And it's such a beautiful thing to see. What has changed?
My story is more open to people. Before it was very taboo. I think I mentioned that even the first time we recorded for the first 8 months of 2020, I was so scared to tell people why I had left because I was going to be judged for it. And the right people don't judge you. And it doesn't matter who else judges you after that. But I did such a great job of hiding my life when I was married that I continued to do that even when I was divorced. And now, in the past year, I am no longer hiding. And as painful as this is and as hard as it is, it's changing so many people's lives. And I get messages on a daily basis. And there were people actually who made appointments to come into the spa in order to meet me and talk to me in person.
I love that.
And I love that. And I respect that so much. And I couldn't even bring myself to charge them because it was just oh my God, you could have just reached out. We would have gone out to coffee. But just for my story to change even one person's life and to give them strength to know that they can have a better life outside of that, do it. Please do it. If you're stuck, don't feel stuck. You're not alone. If you need to talk privately, call with a private number and just talk. Don't feel alone. There's no judgment. I will never and I talked to so many girls and I've met with so many girls. I will never release their story to anyone because I know what that feels like.
Yeah.
It's the hardest thing in the world to even come to like, to bring those words out of your mouth to say these things about the person that you love. And one thing for me is when I'm in a relationship, I will never badmouth the person I am with. No one will know about my relationship. And that's how my marriage was too. If we have a problem, our problem is between us. I never like to disclose anything. So nobody ever knew what was happening in my life. It was this like loyalty that I had. And I had that loyalty for a long time, even after I left, I think. So, and that still continues with me.
That's why people were surprised.
Yeah. So many people were surprised because they didn't know I did such a great job covering up so much of it. But
do you condone that? Do you think it's healthier to cover it up or to speak about it while it's happening?
Depends on what the problem is. In my case, in my marriage, no, I should have talked to somebody. And the thing is, so many people did see, and whoever would come up and say anything, I would close them out of my life. And that was wrong too.
See, I didn't think anyone would understand me. That's why I didn't speak to anyone. I thought it was like an idea that'll go away. It was a thought that'll go away. It's a feeling that'll go away. But the opposite happened. I was craving time alone. And as I was spending more time alone, like hiking or just being home by myself, that thought and that feeling just grew and grew and grew and grew to the point where it took hold of me like head to toe. I couldn't ignore it anymore. It was like permeating in every part of my life.
Do you find yourself doing that now?
No, I'm personally a completely different person than I was while I was married. Very different. And I love so much about her back then, and I honor that person, and I give her love all the time because you cannot regret your life and you cannot regret who you were in that moment. You did the best you could with the consciousness you had at the time. You did the best you could with what you knew at the time, the tools in front of you, the people in front of you. We all did our best. I genuinely believe that. And I love who I was then, even in all my flaws. And I love who I am now, maybe more because I built this person by myself. And I did it through the hardest of situations, and I'm still building her. Is she going to make mistakes? Guaranteed. Is she going to fall and be sad some days? Guaranteed. But we're moving forward. We're moving the needle forward. And I'm doing it alone. And that's what I love more than anything is that despite what everyone said, she's not going to be able to do it alone. Watch in 6 months, she's going to go crawling back or whatever. And it's like, you know, I know you're saying these things because you're also hurt. I know you're saying these things because of your own ego or your own belief system. But just let me be. And that's really all you can do is believe in yourself, put one foot in front of the other every single day, breathe, and just know that you got you.
And never think that, why is this happening to me? Nothing is happening to you.
It's happening for you.
So, and Kabbalah teaches us this, right? It teaches you that everything that's placed in front of you is for you. And it's already pre-written. It was going to happen, whether you married whoever you married or the next person. It didn't matter. You had to go through this path to elevate and become this person that you are now.
Yeah.
So it's already placed in front of you. It was written well before time. So yeah, never feel like a victim. Never feel like, why is this happening? Nothing, absolutely nothing is happening to you. The second you stop feeling like a victim is the second you are going to be more empowered and elevate into the next level of your life.
As we say in Armenian, and it is, it truly is. But you can find grace and beauty even in those moments if you are willing to do that.
Yeah.
Totally. Well, I look forward to seeing you again in 8 months. Will you come back?
Sure.
With
Let's see what our viewers say.
Wisdom to share and more girl talk to share.
Absolutely.
Thank you for being a love in my life and a light in my life, and
Ditto.
For being so open and honest and helping so many people.
It's always a pleasure.
Love you.
Love you too.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Breaking Through with Alina Aberbian. For our community to grow, please like and share, and also leave a review on this episode. Of course, you can find me on social media and let me know what you'd like to talk about in future episodes. Nothing is off limits, so let's have some fun.